Orasutairu, a Pokemon fanfiction by Sanin_Saiyajin. Ash and his Pokemons were currently eating their breakfast by the campsite. Ash looked at his Pokemons and smiled. Charizard and Dragonite were devouring their food like they haven't eaten for months. His other Pokemons were eating in a more civilized manner, but he could tell that they were enjoying their food. It was almost 2 weeks since they left Vermilion City and they were now headed to Cerulean City for his 6th gym battle. Cerulean Gym was a water-type gym, so he ruled out Pikachu from the fight. He doesn't want an easy win. Vaporeon didn't get a chance to battle in a gym yet. I'll use her for the Cerulean Gym, but what about the remaining two? Ash thought as he ate his breakfast in silence. He didn't want to use either one of his big guns. Cerulean Gym was just a fodder gym, if what he heard was correct. So using Pokemon with a type advantage or straight-up dragons will do him no good. Let's go with Ghastly for the other member. And for the final Pokemon, I'll decide during the battle. Ash thought and finished his meal. He recalled all his Pokemons into the Pokeball except for Pikachu and got his things ready to depart. It's cold these days, winter has arrived. Ash thought with a small frown. He always hated winter, maybe staying with dragons ruined his taste for winter. Either ways, winter was not his cup of tea. Pikachu, let's move. We are only a week's distance away from Cerulean. Ash informs and Pikachu nods his head. Suddenly Ash hears a loud explosion in the corner and he cringes his eyes to form a scowl. That was no normal explosion. Let's go see what that was. Ash tells Pikachu, who nods his head with a Pika. Dragonite. Come on out, buddy. Ash says while releasing his trusty dragon. Take me that way. Ash commands while getting on Dragonite, who cooed in response. Dragonite took to the skies and Ash got a view of what had happened. He saw a squad of Team Rocket attacking a small village of Pokemons. He couldn't see what was happening, so he channeled his aura to his eyes to get a clear vision of what was happening. That's a packing village of Bulbasaur. Ash muttered as he ordered Dragonite to take him to that place. What he saw made him scowl in anger and disgust. Several Team Rocket grunts were trying to capture the Bulbasaurs using heavy machineries. Ash saw a small Bulbasaur trying to fight off the machines and grinned. That small guy is gonna be mine. Ash thought. He wanted to capture a grass-type Pokemon, but there was no good grass-type Pokemon in Kanto, so he gave up on his search. He never expected to meet a Bulbasaur, but now that he found one, he won't be leaving it. Dragonite, destroy the machines with a Dragon Pulse. Ash commands and Dragonite fires a strong pulse of dragonic energy from his jaws. The attack managed to destroy the machines and he smirked. Nothing can stand against his Pokemons, not after they trained so hard the past couple of months preparing to defeat Giovanni. Alright, ascend. Dragonite nods his head and takes Ash down. Ash approached the little guy and sat in front of him while waving his hands to show that he didn't mean any harm. You alright, little guy? Ash questions and the Bulbasaur nods its head. Bulba. That's good to hear, take rest for a while, me and my Pokemon will take care for them. Ash assures and Bulbasaur groans at him. Bulba Bulba. Bulbasaur shouts at Ash while waving his wine whip. You want fight too? Ash questions with a grin. Bulba. Bulbasaur nods his head and Ash grins at him. Then, come on. Ash puts his hand in front of him for a fist bump. Bulbasaur looks at the outstretched hand before nodding his head and brings his wines to touch Ash's hand. Suddenly Ash and Bulbasaur got a rush of adrenaline as they experienced something they never expected to experience. A bright light covered their vision as both of them got sent to a dark place. But neither of them saw that both of them were in the same room. Suddenly, Ash was bombarded with memories of Bulbasaur. He saw Bulbasaur's memories since he was an egg. Bulbasaur saw his mother dying right after his birth. Ash silently wept as he learned that Bulbasaur never knew who his father was. He felt a deep connection with Bulbasaur as he saw everything that Bulbasaur had gone through. Among all the things that Ash saw, one thing stood out. His dream to become the strongest Venusaur in the world. Ash saw how Bulbasaur had struggled since childhood. A kid without a parent, only the elders of the village were there to take care of him. But of course, nothing can take the place of a parent that was left vacant when his mother died. Ash saw how Bulbasaur worked day and night to become stronger. To become the best. Ash smiled as he got the memories of Bulbasaur beating the village head and becoming the head himself. Other Bulbasaur started treating him with respect, but that was not what Bulbasaur wanted. No, he wanted to become the strongest. So he continued to train even more than before. But being a wild Pokémon, there was a limit which he cannot cross. He needed the intellect of a trainer to make him stronger. Ash smiled as he saw that Bulbasaur was looking for a strong trainer to train him. Ash just knew instinctively that Bulbasaur was going to be in his main team. With Pikachu, Charizard and Lucario. When the memories finished, Ash opened his eyes to see Bulbasaur staring at him with passionate eyes. I guess he saw my memories too. Ash grinned as he retracted his hand. Let's destroy those rockets, Ash says, and Bulbasaur nods with a determined look. Bulbasaur replies and Ash smirks. Ash looked at the battlefield and realized that not much time had passed since they experienced the mental connection. Dragonite, destroy the other machines while I battle these lowly grunts. Ash commands and Dragonite nods his head before shooting off to the sky. Ash turned his attention to the grunts and sighed. 10 grunts were present with their Pokémons by their side. The generic Zubat, Ekans and Coffins. Nothing new. Bulbasaur, Pikachu, take these rockets down. Ash commands and both of them shot off towards the grunts. Pikachu, quick attack and Iron Tail on anything that is a threat. Bulbasaur, use Razor Leaf on the grunts, legs to immobilize them. Ash commands and the grunts' eye widens as they realized what Bulbasaur was about to do. Pokémons, protect us. One of the grunts commanded to their Pokémon, but what he saw shocked them. Pikachu had already destroyed all their Pokémons under seconds. Good job, buddy, Ash praises, and Pikachu looks at him with a, really? face. Fighting these Pokémons was like fighting against Lieutenant Surge again. There was no challenge at all. Hee hee. Ash rubbed his hand with a sheepish grin. Ash then turned his attention towards Bulbasaur, who was preparing to use Razor Leaf, but Ash decides to stop them. There is no need to do that, Bulbasaur, Ash says, and Bulbasaur nods his head while dispelling his leaves. The grunts turned around to try escaping, but as they turned, they saw a yellow dragon standing with a dangerous look behind them. All the grunts surrendered after seeing the dragon. If they can't defeat that small Pikachu, then a Dragonite was the last thing they could scratch. Ash tied up the grunts together and sighed. There goes my plan to have a normal walk to Cerulean City. Ash saw that Bulbasaur was talking to his village mates and left him be. He already knew that Bulbasaur will come with him, so maybe they were saying their goodbyes. Ash went through the rocket's machinery and saw a large cage that was meant to trap the Bulbasaurs in for transport. Ash released Lucario from his Pokeball. Hey Lucario, please transfer these grunts to that cage. Ash requests, and Lucario looks at the grunts with a raised eyebrow but shrugs it off and does as told. He picked up the tied grunts easily and tossed them in the cage a little bit violently, making the grunts groan loudly. I assume they tried something again. Lucario questions as he walked towards Ash. Yeah, they tried capturing those Bulbasaurs. Ash replies, and Lucario raises his brows. A village of Bulbasaur. That's not something you see every day. I was here right on time and defeated those grunts. Oh, and yeah, we have a new team member. I didn't catch him yet, but he might come with us. Ash informs, and Lucario nods his head. It's obvious, you won't leave such a rare opportunity. Lucario says with a smirk, which Ash returned with a sheepish grin. I'll take my leave then. Lucario says, and Ash brings his Pokeball to recall him. Bulbasaur says as he approached Ash. Ash looks at him and smiles. Said your goodbyes. Ash questions, and Bulbasaur nods his head. Well then, welcome to the team, Ash says with a smile and captures Bulbasaur with a Pokeball. The ball rocked 2 times before it dinged, showing that Bulbasaur didn't resist. Ash smiled as he picked up the ball. His smile disappeared as the Pokeball turned dark. He suddenly realized that it was his 7th Pokémon, which meant that the Pokeball will be locked unless he cleared a spot for him. Ash made a mental note to send one of his Pokémon to the Coral next time he visits the Pokémon Center. Ash then released Charizard and Dragonite from their Pokeballs and greeted them with a smile. Hey guys, please lift this cage up if you can, Ash requests, and both of them nod their head before lifting the cage. Will you manage to fly it from here to Cerulean City? Ash questions, and Charizard nods his head, but Dragonite looked a bit skeptical. Charizard says, and Dragonite nods his head. Let's go then, Ash said, and he and Pikachu jumped up to Charizard's back. To Cerulean City's crime center. Ash glanced at the large building that housed the Cerulean Gym with an indifferent look. This place was home to his 6th badge and Ash couldn't be more ready to battle his heart out to win it. It was a dome-shaped, brightly colored building with a gigantic painting of a dugong on top of it. Ash took in a deep breath and pushed the door of the gym open and walked inside. He searched for the battlefield and found it after going through several corridors. The battlefield consisted of a large pool with platforms on both ends for trainers to stand on. Ash looked at the gym leader and called out, "Hey, I am Ash Ketchum. I've come for a gym battle." Ash introduces himself and the gym leader nodded her head towards him. The gym leader's name is Misty and she has short, red hair tied into a side ponytail with blue elastic rubber band. She has green eyes and fair skin. She wears a yellow tank top that reveals her midriff, red suspenders, denim shorts that stop at her thighs and red high-top sneakers with yellow lining and white laces. "My name is Misty Williams, I welcome you to the Cerulean Gym." Misty says with a short nod which Ash returns. "This will be a 3-on-3 battle, only the challenger can substitute. There is no time limit. Gym leader will choose the Pokémon first." The referee shouts in a commanding tone. Both trainers ready. The referee questions and both of them nods their head. "Begin," the referee said bringing down his flags. Misty calls Seeking. Misty chants and releases her Pokémon after performing a short dance which Ash finds very unnecessary. For a Seeking, go. Ghastly. Ash says and releases his gas Pokémon who was ready to battle. It's been a while since I battled the generic grass and electric type. Misty mused in her thoughts. Ghastly. Miasma. Ash command and Ghastly disappears from view. This is going to be troublesome. Misty muttered and ordered her Seeking to go underwater. Wait for it to resurface. Ash commands. This will get nowhere. I have to find a way to bring out the Seeking to the surface. Ash thinks with a frown. Ghastly. Nightshade on the surface of the water. Ghastly used the attack as commanded but it didn't cause much effect. As expected, it's useless. Now Ghastly's miasma was also no longer active and he was revealed for a moment. Misty smirked seeing Ash's irked expression and called out to Seeking. Seeking use water gun. A streak of water shot off the water and hit Ghastly pushing him back. Ghastly hold on. Ash desperately calls out to Ghastly. Ash looked around the gym and raises his brows. Seeking can see Ghastly clearly from the water. Which means, Ash smirks and calls out to Ghastly. Ghastly, confusion. Ghastly's eyes glowed for a moment but nothing seemed to happen. Suddenly, a distortion was created in the water and Seeking came swimming out of it and started wailing on the surface of the water. Snap out of it Seeking. Misty pleads her Pokémon. Perfect. Now use Psychic. Ash calls out the attack. Ghastly's eye glowed for a moment before Seeking was lifted off the water. Ghastly was a master of confusion when Ash first met him. It didn't take long to understand that Ghastly had some affinity towards Psychic-type moves. And so, Ash started training Ghastly in both Psychic and Ghost-type moves. Once Seeking was lifted off the water, Ash relaxed and smirked at Misty and said, "You can forfeit your Seeking if you want to." Ash says but Misty growls at him. "Fine, have it your way. Ghastly, Nightshade." And with that, the first round of the gym was finished in Ash's favor. Gym leader, release your next Pokémon. The referee shouted from his spot. Misty nods her head at him and brings out a Pokémon and throws it into the pool shouting. Misty calls Starmie. Misty says and a star-shaped purple Pokémon comes out of the ball. Ash gazes at the Pokémon and recalls Ghastly into his Pokéball. Ghastly can go on easily but I want to see Vaporeon in action. Ash thinks and plucks out Vaporeon's Pokéball from his belt. Go, Vaporeon. Misty looks at the Pokémon with stars in her eyes and waves at Ash. Please make me pet your Vaporeon after this battle is over. Misty requests and Ash nods his head. Alright, after the battle is over. For now, let's finish this fast. Ash thinks and nods at Vaporeon who nods back before disappearing into the pool. Misty looks at this adopts a worried look. Starmie, get out of the water. Misty commands and Starmie followed it. Use Water Pulse. Ash commands and Starmie gets hit by a pulse of water before it reached the surface. Use Quick Attack. After Ash said that, Starmie gets assaulted from all direction knocking it back with each passing second. Starmie. Confusion. Starmie tries Confusion but Ash interrupts saying, Ice Beam. Before it can collect the psychic energy, Starmie was hit by a beam of white light which freezes it. Use Iron Tail. And with that, for the first time since Vaporeon joined the battle, she materialized above the frozen Starmie with a glowing tail. Vaporeon hit Starmie with her tail, breaking the ice and knocking it out of the pool. Starmie smacked the wall with a loud thud and fell to the floor. The gem in Starmie's core started flickering, signaling that it was unconscious. Gym leader is down to 1 Pokemon. Choose your final Pokemon. The referee announces and Misty sighs loudly. It was not a battle, Vaporeon completely destroyed my Starmie without any effort. Misty thinks with a frown and brings out her final Pokeball. Bring me the victory. Misty calls. Dash. Sam. I am here. Delia announces as she walks into Oak's office. Oh, come on in. Professor Oak greets Delia with a smile. I wanted to inform you about something. Professor. Oak says and Delia nods her head. What is it about? Delia says as she seats on one of the spare chairs the professor had in his office. It's about Charmeleon, or more specifically, Charizard. Professor. Oak says and Delia raised her brows at him. Charmeleon evolved. Delia questions and Professor. Oak nods his head. Yeah, Ash didn't inform you. Oak questions back and Delia nods her head. Ash doesn't tell me about his journey when he calls. He says that he doesn't want me to worry. Such a caring son he is. But anyways, back to topic. Our suspicions were correct about Charizard. Oak says and Delia nods her head. So, is he a dragon type? Delia questions and Oak nods his head. I asked Ash for a sample of Charizard's DNA and he managed to send me a drop of blood from Charizard. I studied it and got these results. Oak says while turning on his computer. Yeah, but he also has a secondary fire typing. Oak says. Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell me? Delia questions and Oak smiles at her. Yeah, name the most common type dragons are weak towards except fairy. Oak says and Delia replies, ice. Suddenly Delia develops an understanding look and Oak smirks at her. Yeah, Charizard's fire typing negates the effect of ice typing attacks. But, does that mean Charizard's dragon typing negates his fire typing's weaknesses? Delia questions and Oak nods his head at her. These are the results I got. Oak says and shows Delia his computer screen. Dash. Bring me the victory. Misty calls Gyarados. Misty says releasing the atrocious Pokemon who roared after being released. Hydro Pump. Misty commanded and in an instant, Gyarados fired the attack hitting Vaporeon who didn't get any chance to dodge. 1 down, 2 to go. Misty thinks with a smirk. Her eye widens as Vaporeon swam out of the pool looking fresh as ever. How? Ah, of course, water absorb. Misty grits her teeth and shouts at Gyarados so that it can hear her voice. Gyarados, use Hyper Beam. Misty commands and Gyarados gathers an orange energy in its mouth. If water attacks won't work, this will. Double team. Ash says with a calm look. Vaporeon created several clones of herself and circled around Gyarados. Ash had a calm and collected look on the outside, but on the inside, his mind was running several miles per second trying to find the perfect way to beat Gyarados. Gyarados finished gathering the energy and fired at the pool which created a large wave of water that destroyed Vaporeon's clones. Hydro Pump. Ash commands and Vaporeon fired a pump of water at Gyarados who got pushed back. This Gyarados is weaker than Dragonite, there's a chance for Vaporeon. Ash calculates in his mind as he prepared a strategy. That Hydro Pump was just a way to analyze Gyarados' defense which wasn't very high if the clash was anything to judge by. Iron Tail. Misty command and Ash counters. Dodge in the last second and climb its tail as it recalls it. Like Ash commanded, Vaporeon dodged Gyarados' attack with her superior speed and jumped up to its tail and made up his way to her head. Quick attack and show that Gyarados what a real Iron Tail looks like. Iron Tail on its head. Ash commands and Vaporeon shoots off at Gyarados. Quick Gyarados. Shake that Vaporeon off of you. Misty commands in worry but Vaporeon had already hit Gyarados before Ash's command ended knocking Gyarados back. Shadow Ball. Ash commands and Vaporeon shoots a dark ball of energy at the downed opponent. Gyarados got his by the attack and roared in pain but Ash wasn't done yet. Surf. Full power. As the attack ended, Gyarados resurfaced on the surface. The only difference between the first time it entered the ring versus now was, Gyarados entered the ring with a violent and a bloodshot eye, but now, Gyarados had swirls in place of its eye. Challenger Ash wins. The referee announces and Ash smirks. Return. You did well V. Ash returns Vaporeon and smiles at the Pokeball before clipping it. 6 down, only 2 more to go. Ooh, she's so cute. Misty cooed as she pet Vaporeon. Ash watched the scene in amusement as he looked at his Vaporeon enjoying the attention. They were currently in one of the parks in Cerulean City. Misty wanted to pet Vaporeon, so she requested Ash to come with her to the park where she can pet her. It looks like Vaporeon loves it. Ash exclaims and Misty nods her head with a proud face. I have an affinity for water type, they love me as much as I love them. Misty claims with a smile. I can see the truth in the statement. Ash admits as he watched his Pokémon getting pet by the water mistress. I can't believe this small and delicate-looking Pokémon defeated my Gyarados so easily. Misty says in an incredulous tone. Don't judge a book by its cover. Ash sagely replies with a nod that made him look like a preacher. I'll keep that in mind. Oh great holy master. Misty teased with a mischievous grin. Say, you have any other water Pokémon? Misty questions and Ash shakes his head in a negative. Nah, only Vaporeon. I don't plan on catching many Pokémons of the same type. Ash admits and Misty nods her head with an understanding look on her face. That's a nice strategy. You can be ready to face any type of opponent. Must praises making Ash blush. Thanks, Ash says while scratching his hair. So, where will you head to after this? Misty questions and Ash tilts his head as if trying to gauge the correct way to answer. I will go to Pewter. If I am not lazy, I'll take the route through MT. Moon. If not, I'll simply fly through it. Ash responds and Misty nods her head. You have a Pokémon big enough to carry you all the way to Pewter? Misty questions sounding impressed. Yeah, I have one. Ash responds while rubbing his hair sheepishly. He didn't want to reveal all his cards to someone he just met a few hours ago. So he decided that it was best to not show her his dragons. With that thought in mind, Ash decided to bid her farewell. I have to go and check up on my mom and professor to inform them that I've reached Cerulean City. Ash says and Misty nods her head with a smile. This is farewell then. Nice meeting you Ash Ketchum. I want a rematch again. Misty says and she offers her hand for a handshake. Nice meeting you too. Maybe we'll have our rematch sooner than expected. Until then, see ya. Ash waves and walks towards the Pokémon Center in a normal pace. Ash reached the center and directly walked towards the calling booths and dialed Professor Oak's number and called him. It's just 1 p.m. right now. Mom might probably be in the office now. Ash ponders and smiles when he sees Delia's face in the screen instead of the professor. Hi Ashy. Hey Pikachu. Delia greets with a bright smile. Hey Mom Pika Pie. Ash and Pikachu greets back with equally bright smiles. How've you been? Ash questions and Delia answers with a smile. I've been fine Ashy. What about you? How's your journey so far? Caught any new Pokémon? Delia questions and Ash nods his head. Actually, yeah, I caught a Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur is currently in static cause of the meaningless, trainers should only carry 6 Pokémon at a time, rule, I mean. What's the use of this rule? I don't see any need of it. Ash crumbles and Delia giggles lightly. We've been through this already. Hee hee, learn restraints. Delia says and Ash smiles weakly. I wanted to swap some Pokémon so that I can keep Bulbasaur with me for a while. Ash says and Delia nods her head. Whom do you want to send over? Delia questions with a tilt of her head. I've already talked to my Pokémons about this. And we decided to send Dragonite over. That way, he can also spend some time with his mother. Dragonite agreed to this decision too. Ash says and Delia nods her head meekly. I have to take care of more dragons now. Delia says with a sigh, but Ash knew better than anyone that his mom loved taking care of Pokémon more than anything in this world. Let's do the transfer then. Ash says and gets the required things ready and starts the machine. Ash can be seen standing in one of the training fields of the Cerulean Pokémon Center with the rest of his Pokémon training around him. He was talking to his Bulbasaur while carrying his Pokédex on one hand and a notepad on the other. So, that's what I want you to work with, Ash says as he looked at the determined gaze of his newest capture. Bulba. Bulbasaur says with a nod and walks to a nearby rock and lifts it up with his whine. The rock was about the size of Bulbasaur and it was round in shape. He lifts the rock as high up as he can and then slowly descended the rock. He repeated the process again and again and slowly some fatigue started showing on his stature. Shift. Ash commands and Bulbasaur drops the rock to the ground and starts firing leave at the same rock which left some cut marks on it. Satisfied with the result, he nods towards Bulbasaur and says, "Repeat this exercises for some time. I'll come to check your progress in a while." Ash then walks towards his other Pokémon to see how they are training. Dash. Mount. Moon. Ash says incredulously while looking at the gigantic mountain in front of him. Pikachu mimicked his incredulous look from his shoulder as he also marveled at the mountain. But Ash being Ash, I heard rumors of some powerful Pokémons residing within this mountain. Ash says with an excited look at eyes Pikachu with a smirk. "Let's capture some rocks." Ash exclaims and walks inside the entrance of the mountain keeping his eyes open for any signs of the Pokémon that he is looking for. Pi Pikachu. Pikachu questions and Ash shrugs his left shoulder which was unoccupied. "Any rock or ground types will do. I won't be too picky with this one." Ash says with a grin and Pikachu nods his head with a knowing look which made Ash chuckle. Ash sighs and starts, "I can't hide anything from you, right?" And then continues, "I'll catch any Rhyhorn line that we come across." Ash says with a sheepish grin. Pikachu exclaims with a smirk. "I have sent Vaporeon over to the Carol. So I have one free spot for a new Pokémon I will capture." Ash informs and Pikachu nods his head. The two continued chatting for the rest of their trip before Ash felt a strange aura. "You felt that?" Ash questioned suddenly as he stopped in his spot. Pikachu looked at him strangely but Ash didn't acknowledge him. Instead Ash closed his eyes and spread his aura out trying to gauge the presence he felt. Ash opens his eye and gritted his teeth. "It's gone." Ash exclaims and Pikachu looks at him weirdly. Pikachu questions and Ash lets out a sigh. "I felt a strange aura. It was very dark, sinister, but it vanished the moment I felt it." Ash mutters still trying to understand what he felt. "It was powerful." Ash sits down on the floor and lets out a sigh of relief. Whatever it was, thank God he didn't meet it. Pikachu suddenly perks up and sniffs the air. "Pikachu," Ash says and suddenly, he feels an unknown aura approaching him. "Nothing to be worried about." Ash dismisses calmly and stands up from his position while plugging out Bulbasaur's Pokeball. I almost wrote Bulbasaur's ball. But then I remembered I was in Wattpad. The ground around them started rumbling which made Ash lose balance but he quickly got a hold of himself and said, "Get ready Bulbasaur." Bulbasaur nods his head and Ash smirks down at the little guy. "Show me what you can do little guy." Ash thinks with an excited look. Vine Whip. Ash mutters as a dinosaur-like Pokémon appears in front of them. The Vine Whip did a little damage but not enough to stop the Pokémon on its track. Razor Leaf on that Rhydon. Ash commands and Bulbasaur fires the sharp razor-like leaf at Rhydon which managed to stop it on its track. You might have noticed. I find the hole. Calling out their Pokémon's name before giving a command troop cringe. Perfect. Use this opportunity to immobilize it up with Vine Whip. Ash commands and Bulbasaur does as commanded. Bulbasaur wraps his vines around Rhydon's stomach and tries to hold him in place which obviously didn't work considering their size difference. They won't work. Ash mutters and runs his head thinking of a possible strategy to beat it. Rhyhorn shrugs off Bulbasaur's vines and rushes at him for a takedown. Bulbasaur gets hit with the attack launching him flying backwards. "You alright buddy?" Ash questions and Bulbasaur nods his head and stands up shakily from his position. What is a Rhyhorn's weakness? Ash grits his teeth trying to think of a way to counter this behemoth. The weak spot of a Rhyhorn lies in their belly. The mechanical voice of Dexter informs Ash making him nod his head. Alright, find a way to hit his belly. Ash thinks and looks at Bulbasaur. That takedown took a lot out of Bulbasaur. He won't be able to take another one of those. But the takedown must have done some damage to Rhyhorn too. Ash thinks and looks at Rhyhorn but to his surprise, Rhyhorn didn't appear to be harmed at the least. Rock Head. Rhydon's ability which protects it from recoil damage. Dexter's voice reads out again making Ash smirk. I am nuts. I should be worried that I am fighting such a Pokémon. Instead I am smiling like an idiot. Ash says out loud, and Pikachu had the same thought on his mind too. Let's go Bulbasaur. We are catching a dino. Ash says while adopting a serious look. Bulba. Let's try a simple strategy here. Ash thinks with a small grin. Rhyhorn starts running at Bulbasaur for another takedown, but Ash was ready this time. Rhyhorns are never known to be smart. Tricking them will be easy. Ash think with a smirk. Bulbasaur. Run circles around Rhyhorn. Try to confuse him. Ash command and Bulbasaur starts running around Rhyhorn. Though Bulbasaur wasn't the fastest Pokemon out there, his speed was nothing to be joked upon, and it was proven here. Bulbasaur ran around Rhyhorn, kicking small trail of dust behind him. Rhyhorn looked back and forth trying to follow Bulbasaur, but Ash wasn't going to give him an opportunity. Razor Leaf while running. Ash command and Bulbasaur starts firing razors at the dinosaur, which seemed to irritate it, making it growl. Yes, Ash thinks with a knowing grin. Rhyhorn growled even loudly, making Ash grin more. Yes, but if this fails. Ash looks at Bulbasaur and Pikachu worriedly. Pikachu, hold your ground, Ash says all of a sudden, and Pikachu nods his head while bracing himself for whatever was to come. Rhyhorn growled louder than the previous time and lifting its hind limbs off the ground. Aim all your razor leaves for its belly. Ash commands and Bulbasaur fires numerous numbers of razors at his foe, making him bellow out in pain. Go, Pokeball. Ash threw his Pokeball as soon as Bulbasaur stopped his assault. The ball rolled a few times before tinging a successful capture. Ash sighed and returned Bulbasaur while muttering him few words of gratitude. The plan was a very dangerous one. Annoy Rhyhorn so much that it'll try to use its strongest earthquake, which will result in him lifting himself from the ground. But this plan was full of flaws. The biggest one being if Rhyhorn even knows that move, or what if Rhyhorn succeeded in bringing down the earthquake? We might have died here, but like they say, risk is what makes a Pokemon master. Ash thinks with a grin as he walked up to pick up the Pokeball from the ground. I guess this might be the last Pokemon I'll capture from this region. Every Pokemons I wanted to capture has already been captured. Now, only the gym leaders and Giovanni. Ash adopts a dark look at the end. I'll find that man and kill him. Ash black eye turns crimson red for a moment before returning to normal.